This is TrueHoop. Bring it in. Quarantine show. You know,
little quarantine show.
All that jazz that Henry says. I'm clearly not Henry. So if anything goes wrong today, blame Henry. Coach Thorpe, how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to seeing what Adena has for us today. It's Monday, after all.
It is Monday. It's Adena. Before Adena talks, I do want to say this is Adena Jones, the silver medalist in the Sisters in Business Expo
Let's go.
competition winner. Stand up. Applause, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, we gave 110%. Just want to thank my teammates and God. Nah, but seriously, thank you. Like, it was so great to see TrueHoop fam on social media, in my phone, cheering me on. I know I did say I was going in like Larry Legend, and I did. I didn't take my warm-ups off. I didn't underestimate my competition either. We did come in second, but you know what? So did LeBron. LeBron comes in second a lot. And I got something in my social media gems today for all the haters. Because you got to have haters in order. You ain't popping if you ain't got haters. That's how you get better in this life. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Very true.
All right. Yeah. Take it away.
All right. Bet. Gonna share the screen. So there is so much going on this weekend, the week, and trying to keep up with it all. So I'm going to start out with something that was pretty familiar to me and kind of triggering. So Maria Taylor, she is NBA Countdown host. She's also, she does college football for ESPN. Well, she got attacked. I don't want to say the word attacked. She was just called out by Doug Gottlieb. Doug Gottlieb says, why does Maria Taylor have a vote? Real question. She's a studio host / sideline reporter. In her first year covering the NBA, she works a ton, not just on the league. No reason for her to vote. Really coming for her expertise and her vote, and judging why she's even here to decide on all NBA teams. So what she actually did was she talked about how she made a clear mistake leaving AD off the defensive team. And after reading a couple of tweets, there was a woman who she handles voting for MLB. And she says it's actually very common for reporters to leave an empty space and make a mistake and leave an empty space. So it's so common that they call reporters and say, hey, did you mean to do this? And they'll be like, oh, no, or something like that. So Maria Taylor made a mistake. She admitted it. And she said, it's been a long week, but if everyone would now like to take my voter privileges away because of a clear mistake, please feel free. She also responded to Doug and was like, I have a vote because I played basketball and I cover the league and I deserve everything I worked for. It just brings back to me the sense that, you know, women, we're not allowed to make mistakes in the sport. You know, I've seen a lot of women anchors or reporters, and maybe they get a stat wrong on air, or maybe they stumble on air, and then social media will be filled with, get her off, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about, blah, blah. And I've actually had to transcribe on-air male reporters, and you want to talk about the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, it goes by so quickly that you're like, what the fuck? So for example, I'm working at CBS Sports, and I'm watching, you know, Hall of Famers break down games, and you're like, what's your prediction for this week? Well, I predict the Eagles are going to win because they're home. Really? That's all you got for me? Is that because they're home? You've played football for how many? But let me say that, or let a woman say that, right? Like, and sometimes they wouldn't even be home. And I was like, actually, you made a mistake. And also working at ESPN, there's a really famous reporter, talking head. So at ESPN, if you don't know, we have a research department. It's like a whole floor. You can actually call a phone number, ask for any stat, and they'll get it to you within 2 to 3 minutes, right? This one reporter would call for the most asinine stats that you could literally Google and find in 2 minutes, like who won the MVP in 1967, right? Or something like that. But let a woman do that, and it's like she doesn't know. So, you know, Maria, keep your head up. You know, you got this. You will have plenty of votes. But it also brought me to this John Thompson piece. I'm going to share my screen again, where he spoke about the right to fail as a Black person. And I would say put this as a Black woman and a Black person.
One thing, to speak on what Mr. Dooley said, you know what I have a problem with? I have a problem with the John Thompsons and the Tubby Smiths of society. I'm sick of them.
Why?
I'm sick of them. And I'm going to tell you why I'm sick of them. Is simply because there are a whole lot of white coaches who aren't successful. Blacks don't have to win the national championship to get an opportunity to coach. know, and I have that. You hear that in relation to education. You hear that in relation to professors. You ask, why don't you have more black professors? I will take a black if he's competent. Well, hell, there's a hell of a lot of whites failing. All we want is an opportunity to get out there and to try, and a right to fail also. And respectfully, I'm saying that to you, not saying it. You know, I'm sick of us having to be perfect to get the job. I don't want to be perfect to get the job.
Preach, John, preach.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think we spoke about it. Certain white male media personalities, right? They can fail. Their shows could not do well, but they'll still get investment money. They'll fail upwards. They'll be on a larger network. And it's just not a privilege given to minorities, whether you're white or whether you're a woman. And I've had thankfully, I've been put in positions where I can hire people. And I've seen times where Black interview candidates will come in, and if they're soft-spoken or maybe their deck wasn't decorated enough or designed, they're like, you know, my white counterparts would be like, well, I don't think they're ready for this or they're professional enough. And I was like, but that one girl who blew me off twice, that white girl who's like rescheduled the interview 3 times, she obviously doesn't want this job, but you want her, right? Cool. So, you know, shout out to John. We don't have to be perfect, and we definitely want the opportunity to fail in this sense.
Kind of dovetail to Doug Gottlieb a little bit, talking about failing up.
Yeah, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You said that.
Put that out.
You said it. All right, move on.
Having said that,
my favorite NBA story. You guys know this. I'm always here every Monday for Big Face Coffee updates. So our Jimmy Butler, as you guys know, he started his own, I'll just repeat this everyone, he started his own coffee, I guess, shop within the bubble. He was the only one who had a French press. So there was a demand, he provided $20 a cup, no matter what the size. This was actually on Goran Dragic's Twitter. They're best friends. And apparently this day, Goran got a free Big Face cup of coffee from the owner of Big Face. And we've gotten to the point where there's Big Face merch, which we'll come back to later on. Big Face has some customer service issues, as you can see here.
I came to a Big Face Coffee, but it's closed, man. Unfortunately, this time I bring cash too. Now I don't have other option to go to Little Face Coffee.
Like, is there really Little Face Coffee? Like, what is happening here? And the hours of Big Face Coffee seem to be whenever the hell wants them to be. What I also dig about this is how Jimmy's door is decorated. Do you see this? Like, it's like back when you were in college, you're like, yo, my door is going to say something about me. And it's perfect. It's just too cute. And their whole dynamic is too cute. I love it. So we've got Big Face. Yeah, we've got Big Face merch. Simplicity is what we're going for here. And your boy's always in his merch. Come to find out that there is actually a merch deal going down. Oh, sorry about that. There is, really? Yeah, there's a merch deal going down. Here is if you go to the US trademark site, Big Face Coffee has trademark over 15 trademarks for apparel, houseware, cafe items, including coffee beans, coffee grounds, candy bars, things you would find in Starbucks. They're producing fruits, packaged fruits, non-alcoholic beverages, including coffees. Amazing. And you could see the logo on the top left. Like, they're really going hard for this. And then the thing that Front Office Sports, I believe, discovered also.
How to give.
That, I think it's not here, but actually Jimmy Butler is in talks with Lululemon. I always say that name wrong. Lululemon, and to get a Big Face Coffee merch line. So take all my money, Big Face Coffee. I'm here. I want a sweatsuit. Like, let's get it. We could even, maybe Big Face can sponsor a segment on TrueHoop. Who knows? I also tweeted, I'm like trying to get on. I was like, hey, if you need a social media manager, Big Face, like, what's up?
Did you notice? Look at the logo on the bottom. I had never seen that. No IOUs. That's fantastic. Like Jimmy, it's not a business. It's an extortion ring, and you're just so happy to give him the money because no one else is doing it. He's brilliant. That whoever came up with that, maybe it was Jimmy, maybe it was a partner. It's fantastic. It's just so on brand, isn't it, Adena? The no IOUs.
No, it's so on brand. What were you gonna say, Jarod?
I was like, Jimmy was so clear about that from the beginning. He's like, I'm selling for $20 a minute because y'all can all afford it. And I don't want to hear about you don't got to write. No. As he said, no IOUs. You got cash, bring it with you.
So great.
And as a business owner myself, I'm looking at this. It's like, there's something to be said about price points. You know, if I see someone carrying a Big Face coffee, that means that they've got the money. They're elite. So I'm like, maybe I charge, I don't know, we'll talk, about price points. If people are part of another lane and it costs this much, it means you're elite. You've got money. It's a status symbol. Big Face is a status symbol, even though the logo doesn't look like, it looks like it was drawn by.
So good. I think it's so good.
It's so good. It looks like it was like literally on his whiteboard in the room, right? And he drew it. Perfect. All right. So probably everyone thought we were going to come into Anthony Davis's game winner last night. So obviously we've got the most brilliant basketball mind around. So coach will talk about the breakdown of the actual play, not breakdown as if there was something wrong, but discussing it. I'm looking at the celebrations afterwards because I thought they were really awesome. So let's just take a look at the play.
All to give. Jokic trying to disrupt Rondo. He puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony Davis has won it for the Lakers!
So that's the popular play. I've heard about this.
Anthony Davis! They could.
It was awesome. Here's a little bit closer up where we get the karate action, I guess, because there's a knee involved.
They confirm the basket. Game over.
Great play call by Coach Vogel. What he did was he put the screen on the big fella. Big fellas aren't used to coming off the screen playing.
That is definitely like catching something, a wide receiver catching something in
defense. That's why Jokic did a great job.
That was a rookie Taylor Horton Tucker, right? That's who that was?
I couldn't tell who it was. He was on his father's back.
Yeah, Chris Haynes tweeted it afterwards that it was Tucker, and they were like, "Yo, how did it feel?" He was like, "His knee energized me, like I was there." Like, and you'll see later.
Hand up, but that was Plumlee's man coming off the screen. That's why.
Look at that.
Jokic did a great job getting the hand up, but that was Plumlee's man coming off the screen.
And so he actually yells Kobe there. That was a really big part.
Coming off the screen.
Anthony
Kobe, and with them being in the Mamba jerseys, like it was just, there were a lot of emotions. This is a still frame of what happened. This is one of those things like, let's take a deeper look. So,
look at Vogel.
Wait, it's so much.
It's like, all right.
It's so much happening. Okay, there's Vogel. Vogel. Someone said that Vogel looks like a proud parent on Christmas. Like,
that's exactly right.
I got
literally what I was thinking.
So he's got arms folded. Then there's Jared Dudley, like, bring it.
I'm the papa.
Yeah, bring it in. Next up. Okay, so Tucker, he just got kneed in the stomach. He's so elated still, mask and all.
He's smiling.
He's smiling, mask and all. Oh, he is so happy to get kneed.
And whose basketball is that?
So, during the game, I saw the Lakers players on the bench all like having this ball and just like bouncing it around like between themselves. Yeah.
Just like AAU, it really is.
Yeah. I was like, are you even allowed to do that? So then there's that. Yeah, just all the celebrations. I had one more that I found after I put the whole thing together. It was actually J.R. Smith smacks. He smacked AD in the head. No, but AD keeps.
Come on inside.
That was a slick move by AD. He had his head like, look out.
I know. Wait, one more time because I think it went by too quickly. He's like, oh. Oh my God.
Shook that off.
I know. He just shook it off, and it's like the adrenaline of being that awesome. So love the celebrations, and I can't wait to hear more about the breakdown. But those are the moments that we watch basketball for, that we love, and it was a truly exciting moment. So getting to my boy LeBron. Like you guys said, I experienced second place. It is what it is. I still got $2,500. It was great, but I'm not gonna lie. This actually, LeBron's presser came after I had got second place that night, and I was like, you know what? This is LeBron's energy. So this is LeBron after being asked about MVP voting. As we all know, Giannis won, and how he felt about it.
Pissed me off. That's my true answer. It pissed me off because out of 101 votes, I got 16 first place votes. That's what pissed me off more than anything. Not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP. Not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP. but that pissed me off. And I finished second a lot in my career, either from a championship and now 4 times as an MVP. Like I said, I never came into this league saying let me be an MVP or be a champion. I've always said I just want to get better and better every single day, and those things that take care of itself. There's some things that's just out of my hand and some things you can't control. But it pissed me off.
The fact that he said it 3 times was like he was very controlled in it, and it's understood. Not to say that maybe he thought he should have won, but it was really the 16 out of 101, right? And that's what pissed him off, that more people didn't necessarily vote for him. And, there was one thing he said about I've come in second a lot in my life. And me coming in second was like, I literally texted one of my mentors afterwards and I said, is this how LeBron feels in the finals? I'm so full of myself. It's fucking great. Like that I compare myself to LeBron, but whatever. I said, is this how you feel? Like, yeah, I got a consolation prize, whatever. But it's the fact of people like underestimating you and you almost getting there. But one thing I did feel after getting second, and I feel like LeBron feels the same way, especially after he tweeted, 16 out of 101, I got y'all, was that A, I'm going to destroy everyone and prove them wrong. And then B, whatever it is that they think I don't have, I'm going to continue to work on that. And that's how I felt after my pitch competition was, while yes, I am great, I knew that there were things that I felt like I missed out on and I could have been better on. But I immediately went back in the gym, and to me, it was my numbers for my business, right? So I was like, I opened an Excel spreadsheet and I was like, what's my overhead? What's this? What's that? And I felt like a player who maybe missed a left-handed layup, to win the game. And all they do is practice these left-handed layups in the gym for 2 hours right after that game, sweaty, hurting and everything. So we come in second, but LeBron's most likely going to win the chip. And it's like, second who for what? So LeBron energy is what I'm giving, and I'm loving it right
now. Love it. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Yeah,
I think, you hit so many points on the head there with that whole second place thing. And, when you were younger, coaches or people would tell you, second place is the first place loser, right? Like all these things that you would hear about. And there is something in that immediacy of being second and what that feels like, because you're like, damn it, somebody beat me. You're like, there's only one person. So you're like, what do they do, right? So I totally get that. And then in the broadcast, I don't know if you guys saw it, they put up the list of every person who finished second in the MVP at least 3 times. Hell of a list, by the way.
Oh my God.
Those dudes who finished second.
Yeah.
Harden, Durant, Bird, LeBron, all Hall of Fame dudes. Like it's quite impressive there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very much a first world problem to have too many second place finishes when you already have, in LeBron's case, 3 first place finishes. Yeah.
Yep. But like I said, go ahead, Jarod.
No, go ahead, Adena.
No, I was just saying, I was like, if you win the chip, does it really matter at this point in time?
Don't be so sure they're going to win it. That's a whole nother topic.
I know. Let's talk about that. I'm definitely putting the cart before the horse.
Well, there's so much we can get into, but I think just because we're still on the LeBron thing and that game, Coach, let's talk about Game 7 now, and we can get into some of the other stuff a little bit down the line in the show. So the focus point that everybody's looking at is that final play, right? And Julian,
from Game 2 from last night. Yeah.
If you want to play it again, just so everybody sees it, right? And
pull that up
before the show. Mason just looked like he was waiting for like his motion to me looked like he was expecting something to happen that didn't happen, and then it didn't happen. Then it was like crap, right? Then it was like we're screwed here. He's yelling at Jeremy, go out and guard. And like as Coach mentioned, Jokic did actually get over there and contest. It was quite impressive to actually see that. And Coach, I don't know. I mean, from an X and O standpoint,
that's not the right video, right?
That's what Judy just showed on video was the play from the very first bubble game where Kuz hit a game-winning 3 on basically the same kind of action, just using a screen. And the Nuggets guarded it the same way. They kind of switched it. Plumlee pointed for the switch. This is now the new one from last night, but it's the same play. So first of all, let me break this down a little bit. To begin with, it's a fantastic shot by Anthony Davis. He's not running directly opposite from where the rim is because he's going laterally. That's a very, very hard shot to make by yourself in a gym with no pressure at all. You're going to make 4 out of 10 maybe if you're a really good shooter, 5 out of 10 possibly. It's a very hard shot. He just played 30 whatever minutes. He was tired. Secondly, Nikola Jokic has lost a lot of weight. He's still an enormously big man.
Look at that.
If you watch this slowly, Jokic almost blocks it. Look how close he is. If you're watching it on video here, look at this. That is as perfect a contest as you can get because he never risks fouling, which have been tragic. So I first want to respect Frank Vogel for coming up with the play. It's not that hard of a play to come up with, but still they ran a great play. And having LeBron be the screener, well, he didn't really set a screen, but in theory he was smart too. Jokic almost blocks it. What Jokic did is absolutely what you would teach. First of all, we call that curl protection. And there's 2 ways to curl protect. Jeremy Grant could have curl protected. He could have left his screener, which was LeBron, and protected the guy curling, which is AD. The other way you curl protect is from the guy guarding the passer. There is risk when you leave the passer to protect to the curler, and that is your man is open, but not when there's 2 seconds left in the game. They don't have time to throw it back to your man. So that's why Jokic, one of the reasons why he was on the ball. It's going to be him or Plumlee. Because not only is he a gigantic force, and if you look at where Jokic was initially, he was protecting a pass to go to the paint, which is because, remember, they could have won the game when they were down 1. They could have won the game on a layup. So Jokic initially is protecting the paint. Then he reconfigures thinking, okay, normally a paint pass can be something that comes really quickly. So now he repositions to cover more of the outer area, which is a 3-point shot, which puts him in position to go curl protect and dive out and almost block the shot. So great job by Jokic. He executed perfectly. The only issue is what were Grant and Plumlee supposed to do?
Yeah,
If you watch it on video, you're seeing a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
To begin with, I saw someone break down and say Plumlee wasn't close enough to AD to begin with. Wrong. If you are hugging AD 17 feet from the basket, you are absolutely at risk to get what we call face cut, which is direct cut to the rim. Now, Jokic was standing in a position to protect that pass, but you still can get a pass through, and that's a dunk, and you lose the game. And that's a much higher percentage shot than the curl 3. All right, you can't be hugging Davis there. You're going to get beat on a cut much more easily. Secondly, I don't know what Mike Malone asked of Plumlee and Grant. He might have said, to Plumlee, if your man is coming towards the ball for a screen, we're switching that. I don't know what he said. Or he might have said nothing. Guys, figure it out. And Grant, we saw Grant and Plumlee talking. I don't know what they said. Clearly, someone should have left LeBron. You're seeing people argue, guys, that had Grant shown on Jokic, then LeBron would have stepped right to the rim. Possibly. But Plumlee was in position to immediately come over there. And remember, that pass to LeBron, Jokic was in position to deflect as well. So we call that slipping the screen. LeBron looks like he's going to set a screen. LeBron really did nothing. But okay, he didn't have to. You can stand and still set a screen. Davis took not a great angle to use LeBron's screen. That wasn't LeBron's fault. That's Davis's fault. And had Grant popped out to guard Jokic, LeBron certainly could have dived right to the rim. But Plumlee was there potentially to deflect it and maybe influence the shot, which is why when Judy first showed this tape, they showed it from the first game of the bubble games. Same teams, same play, opposite side of the court. And Plumlee wants to stay home because he's 7 feet tall and very athletic. And you want him in position to make a play at the rim. Because in that game, 2 or 2 would have either tied or won the game. It's different when you're defending just the 3 because your team's up 3 points. Then you don't need your big guy at the rim because 2s don't matter. It's got to be a 3. But in this case, you had to defend the 2. It's a much harder play to guard. So I don't know yet who to blame. I know this. Hubie Brown says you set screens for one reason, to make defenders think, and they did not work out their plan well enough. But if you're asking me, did Denver contest extremely well? Yes. Was it a 7-footer? Yes. Was it a 7-footer in a great position, an angle to contest without fouling? Yes. If Plumlee contests that or Grant does, the risk for fouling is greater. because they're in line with the path of the shooter. So I think we're missing the big picture. It was a great contest. It was a greater shot. And the most important thing of all is LeBron was fucking terrible the entire second half. So, yes, it's great to be up 2-0, but we've seen series go 7 games after a 2-0 lead. Last year with the Bucks, they lost to Philly and not to Philly, to Toronto. And just in Toronto-Boston series, it was 2-0 and went to 7. And if LeBron James doesn't play even mildly better than what he did last night, they're not going to win this series. He was fucking horrendous. He was so bad that had they benched him, they win by 10 points. He needed to sit on the bench. He was horrendous. I would sit him for game 3. They might have a better chance to win without him. Now, I don't know why, if he was fatigued or injured. We don't know that. I just know they can't win the championship with him playing like that. So we're getting all distracted with that. Mike Malone isn't. The Denver Nuggets are talking today about, guys, LeBron is gassed. He carried them in the first quarter, which was necessary, and then he died. And we should have won the game. That's what he's going to be arguing, and not just because of that last shot. They had the prayer 3 from Rondo.
Yep.
They had another step back 3 at the shot clock buzzer. They also had a prayer 3 from KCP in the corner after Danny Green chucked up a 28-footer that drew iron that the Lakers got a rebound for and got the KCP 3. Had it not drawn iron and easily could have been an air ball, the shot clock goes off. That's 6 points, right, that were absolutely – and Dozier missed, I think, 4 straight free throws, maybe 5. So Denver really should have won the game because LeBron was so awful. These things are more important than whether or not Plumlee should have gone over the screen or not. I don't agree with that at all.
Is it possible, Coach, that the path that Davis took was that just an idea that you said? Hubie Brown always said you set screens to make the defender think. Was it almost like using LeBron as a decoy, running towards that direction, having him think he might do something?
I don't think it was that, because LeBron was in such a terrible position that I had both players, which happens all the time. Just watch a Warrior game with Steph Curry. With both the screener's defender and the shooter's defender, they go with the shooter. The screener's wide open. Draymond Green rolls the rim and gets a dunk on that often with Warrior action, right? LeBron wasn't even looking at the ball. I don't know what LeBron would have done. He wasn't even aware of what was going on. He was out of it. He did nothing right on that play, as I see it. Now, the reason why you had him set the screen is not so much the decoy, because the 2 wins the game as well. It's because it's LeBron James. And if he can slip it for the layup, for sure. I don't know if he would have made the shot because he wasn't making anything at that point. He was falling down, turning the ball over. LeBron was just mentally out of it. Davis's angle allowed for a curl to the rim. So the teaching point there is that Plumlee goes over the top of the screen, which he didn't do. But if he had, then Davis could have curled back to the rim. And if Grant then goes with him, LeBron is open for the step to the basket also, because Plumlee's on the top side. These are things we work on all the time. I think mostly, Jarod, I think that Plumlee may have messed up. Davis took a bad angle, probably because he doesn't get those plays very much.
Yeah,
he should have been more straight line, but it worked, and they made it. That's not, to me, blaming Plumlee's a mistake. I thought Malone, who I was not a fan of going into this postseason, and I've grown to be a fan because he's doing the work. Leaving Dozier in the game when he couldn't make a free throw because of what he was doing defensively might have been a mistake. MPJ, I think, was their 3rd leading scorer, and he played very little.
Yeah.
Your boy probably should have been in the game. Even at crunch time, he wasn't in the game. And that's the other mistake. The other mistake was Jokic down 1 on the Nuggets' last possession. Jokic scores bullet ball over AD, point blank in the paint, and Caruso never leaves Dozier, who's 14.5% from 3 in the postseason. Now, he hasn't played a whole lot. But you have got to say, I'm making a Dozier hit the wing 3 over a Jokic 1-on-1, even though it's against AD. That's Jokic, right? I think that was a mistake the Lakers made, is not sending more resource to help on Jokic on that, thinking AD can contain Jokic 1-on-1. You can't. Right. Jokic is just a little bit better. And the last thing I'll say on this is we published an article on Friday. I think Henry's headline was something about the series will be decided by Giants. Mm-hmm. There were 5 threes in the entire second half. Jokic made 1. Davis made 2. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the 2 of them, both Giants, scored the last 20 points of the game. Giants will win the West. They scored the last 20 points of the game. Jokic had 11. Davis had 9. So TrueHoop, we nailed it. This is a series about big men. In game 1, this is the other part of the story that I didn't nail. The Lakers scored 54 points in game 1, which is way more than normal. But the Nuggets scored 52. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, 22 of them came in the first quarter. So only 30 came in the last 3 quarters, right? Great. Great job by LA. But in game 2, the Nuggets outscored the Lakers in the paint. Mm-hmm. So that is not something the Lakers are used to seeing. I think that's where Frank Vogel builds his team back up to try to get a 3-0 lead, is we've got to defend the paint much better. We also need to score much better in the paint. They only scored 34 points. That's well below their average of 40-something in the regular season, the playoffs. So both teams have some stuff they can do. And I know, Jarod, you probably want to talk about the Murray-Jokic game. We can talk about that too. Yeah. But LA's got to they've got to stiffen up their paint defense, and they've got to get a lot more out of LeBron.
Jarod, before you get into that matchup, I was actually wondering, so I thought the same thing that you did, Jarod, about like LeBron being a decoy. Because I'm like, just by being LeBron, it's like you have to do something. And if you don't pay attention to him and you get burned, you're going to, kick yourself in the morning. But I was also wondering, Coach, we heard that there was a foul to give, and I think Jarod had mentioned that. Or would you have given the foul at that point in time, or what do you think?
No, you can't. If you foul before the ball is inbounded, it's 1 free throw and the ball back. Mm-hmm. So that would be a mistake. That would tie the game potentially. And then you can't foul the shooter, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah,
and the possession that led to that, remember, Danny Green got a shot blocked. Mm-hmm. They had a foul to give on that. Instead, they just played great defense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then it just was, if you're looking at probabilities, if you do a probability run does LA win a game down 1 with the ball 2 seconds left underneath? I would give it less than 1 chance in 4. I just don't think they're winning that game more than 1 chance in 4. And they did, because the game is decided not just by Giants, but by the true superstars. It's a really hard shot to make. It's not just superstars that make it. But to make it over Jokic, Danny Green gets a shop block for sure.
Oh, yeah, easy.
You saw how close Jokic was.
Easy.
LeBron probably gets a shot block. LeBron took some terrible shots.
Yeah, it was that this game was so interesting, to your point, Coach. Like, that second, Denver outplayed them clearly in that second half, like by a wide margin. And you talked about the big men. I do wonder this. So we talked about the Lakers' size, right? And I know Jokic had a really good game. But there are moments that I see, particularly when Dwight's on the floor against him, that Dwight bothers him. And in a game like the playoffs where the margins are so thin, right? Look, this was a 1-point game.
Absolutely right.
So when he has 2 possessions where Dwight frustrates him and he gets a foul or whatever, is that a cumulative thing that, well, those aren't 2 scores we didn't get. Now the scores, we're only down 2. That 3 helps us win the game, right? Like, how important is someone like Dwight? And I thought he played better in game 1 than he did in game 2, but still did some things in 2 that bother Jokic. So talk about, like, because Dwight, by the way, is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's much older now, but, like, he still knows some tricks and's got some stuff in his bag.
I thought that Dwight has done such a good job in this postseason and the whole season of playing on the edge without going over the edge. I thought last night he went over the edge.
Yeah,
he fouled Jokic late, hit him in the head on the Lakers couldn't score in the fourth quarter, and the Nuggets struggled to take the lead they finally did, partly because just stupid fouls by Dwight and the Lakers. And one of them was a great contest on Jokic from Dwight, and yet fouling him stupidly. But you're absolutely right, Jarod. Dwight is still very quick, very strong, very athletic, very aggressive. These are all really good things to be as a defensive big against that dude. You just can't foul. So one of the things I think Vogel will talk about is, hey, they only give up 38 paint points. So they only scored 34 of the Lakers, but 38 is a low number. They've got to tighten up a little bit on fouling. They can't foul Jokic, and Dwight has got to get that message. We need you to get to the edge, but never foul needlessly. But I definitely think he's making an impact. He also, and this is breathtaking, no pun intended, at the work that they're putting in to make Jokic work to score, and yet Jokic scores the last 11 points of the game for them. So he is battling with Davis, McGee, LeBron, and of course Dwight. And Dwight's going after every offensive rebound. He is a force to be reckoned with. And he still has the conditioning to score 11 straight points at the end, including a very important three. One of the things that's missed, and I tweet some of this stuff when I'm watching the game, the Clippers didn't guard Jokic from three. And when they did, it was casual, and then he was shot fake and blow by him. Zubac just couldn't do it. He made that three late against Davis because Davis just was a little bit delayed in saying, I'm taking this shot away. And because of it, Jokic hit this huge three. They've been doing a very good job, both taking it away, contesting the shot fake attack, bringing some help. It's working. I mean, Denver has not scored, they have 104 last night? Mm-hmm. That's one of their lowest numbers. If you take away Game 7 against Utah, where they scored 80 in just a terrible, terrible game because both teams were so exhausted, they've broken that number almost every game, I think, but maybe one, maybe two. LA played good defense. They did. Their offense was just putrid because LeBron was so bad. So that's what I keep getting back to is, what are we going to see? To me, that's the single most important question. It's not about adjustments, okay? It's what LeBron are we getting? Can he not play well for two halves? Because if he can't, they're in trouble. And I picked him to win in June. They need LeBron to be able to play really good in one half and great in the other. And yesterday he was fantastic in the first quarter, first half, and just awful in the second half. And they got lucky to win. And I don't think they'll win the series or the finals if they don't get more consistency from him over 4 quarters.
I wonder if his hyperbaric chamber's down there. Can you bring that to them?
To me, I guess you have to, if you leave the bubble, because he needs a trip to Miami. It's only 3.5, 4 hours away. He needs that Miami trip. Sacrifice Game 3. It's too bad that the Eastern Conference gets the Monday night off. And I know it's all for TV purposes, what they're doing.
LeBron needs the night off.
LeBron needs a night off, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've seen some of his Instagram, but like the size of his suite/room, I'm like, he can fit a hyperbaric chamber.
Slide in, send it down.
It's basically like a 3-bedroom apartment.
He can buy a floor.
Yeah.
Let's understand that. The Lakers would buy him a floor if they needed.
No doubt. Last thing on the Nuggets Lakers before we move on is, Coach, I want to talk about the Murray and Jokic two-man games. I find it's obviously fast and on so many levels, and it's so devastating. I saw it twice last night where LeBron, whoever was guarding Murray, he would call out to that guy, no, I got him, to send him away with AD on Jokic so that if they try to run that two-man game, their advantage gets sort of slighted a bit, right? Because if you switch there, well, now LeBron's on Jokic and AD's on Murray, which is still pretty good, and or vice versa. But then I noticed the Nuggets, when they saw that coming, would easily just say, okay, before we even start that, run a side action with Jokic to get a switch that we want there. Now bring him over to get to Murray. But is that something that with the Nuggets doing that, if the Lakers show the LeBron on Murray and AD on Jokic early, does that get them off rhythm? Because now they have to run a secondary action first, and now you're running your actual play later in the shot clock.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so great job seeing that. That is why LeBron twice pulled Caruso off of him. Remember, late in the game, and it was off an inbounds play, I think, Caruso ended up on Jokic. Jokic took a contested by Caruso, the foot smaller than him, maybe 16-footer. The ball traveled 1,200 feet in the air and then swished right to the rim. That's how Jokic shoots the ball. And Caruso has literally zero chance to contest it, just like you couldn't contest Dirk. But remember, it's not just the size of these players. It's the angle of exit off their finger pads when they go shoot, right? So when Jokic shoots the ball that high up, which is what he does, Caruso has just no shot to contest at all. So when LeBron shooed Caruso away twice late in the game to guard Murray, he only did it for that reason, in my opinion. It's not that he's so great at guarding Murray. He's fine. He's tall and all that. But it's to make it more difficult for them to take advantage of that switch, right? So, yeah, so now you're making Denver do something else. You still have LeBron on Murray. And so you're making them do something different. and that's what you want to do. And the farther you go on the clock, and you can do a late double team or a late hard hedge, and they can't do swing, get a shot because it's so late in the clock. This is the chess mess that you're playing with. And now these teams see each other a couple of times. They'll kind of know what's going on from there. I think that Murray and Jokic both, I've told this story probably, I'm bringing it, I'm sure I have. The line from, I just did a podcast this morning where I talked about it. The Morpheus line of, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Murray and Jokic are walking the path. So I was asked this morning on a different show, what does this mean next year? I don't know. How do you predict the future? But if Murray and Jokic go into next year on this same path where they both know no one can really guard me because I can really shoot, Murray especially. Well, I shouldn't say that. Jokic is shooting great too and is a great shooter. Both those guys have so much confidence shooting the ball and are so good at doing it. These guys become an incredibly dynamic duo going forward. It's not just Murray's threes and at the rim. It's his mid-range. And against Utah, I saw it every game, and he didn't do it quite as well against the Clippers. He shot three. He may have shot the three better against the Clippers. I don't remember, but not overall for sure. But he's shooting well enough where every shot you feel like he takes is going to go in. Same as Jokic. So that becomes a real hard thing to guard for anyone. There's not many better pick-and-roll combinations between two guys that both can score from everywhere like those two guys in the league. Yeah.
There was actually a question in the chat, Coach, for you. It was from Are You Registered to Vote? Who's also yeah, it's a question for you. Assuming, well, no, I said Are You Registered to Vote? It's not like asking you. That's
yes. I'll just say I'm 55. Yes,
funny story before I asked this question. I was talking to my sorority sisters last night, and I was asking them, how are you going to vote? And they were like, is there an option? Like, girl, what are you talking about? I was like, no, I meant like mail in, go in. They were like very upset at me. There are no options.
Just to answer that first part, I see the question from Devin, who changes his name all the time. My wife actually she's volunteering to work for the DNC right now. She gets her training today. She'll be calling registered voters every single day. She's never done that before. She's done a lot of volunteer work. She's never gone this far. My mom has. Now my wife is too. And then on the day of the election, November 3rd, my wife is being paid by the state to work as a deputy at the building, literally opening the place up, closing it down, making sure it's run well. And my wife does not fuck around. At all. That'll be a well-run precinct. And we're driving in our votes. The day that you can first do early voting, we're going in and voting in person with our mask on right then and there, October, whatever. So the question asked is, who do I think can give LeBron and the Lakers a hard time? First of all, I'm not sure it will be the Lakers. I don't know what I'm seeing from LeBron. I thought LeBron was exhausted twice before in this playoffs, and then he's rebounded very, very well, right? Maybe he does have a hyperbaric chamber somewhere. Clearly, he needs it because he was dead in this game last night. If he is playing like he has been, which is mostly good and sometimes bad, I don't know who I like better, Miami or Boston, because I think they're the same team. What I mean by that is in terms of potency. Miami is better defensively because of the way they can play zone and Bam protecting the rim, although Tace is a good rim protector. Bam's better. Jimmy Butler is a better option defensively than anyone, but Jason Tatum's a very good defensive player. So is Jaylen Brown. Butler's better than both. Boston's got more weapons, and Hayward's probably going to get better, not worse. I thought in that series Boston was a better team. I still think they have a great chance to win the series, and I think every game is going to be a coin flip game. I'm wrong. Game 3 was a Boston blowout. Boston's won 7 of 12 quarters. They've had one terrible quarter in the 3 games. They lost by 20, 37-17, and I think maybe it was game 2. But other than that, Boston's been probably the better team. They just lost in overtime in game 1. Or it'd be them up 2-1, right? And Boston should have won game 1. So I think it's a coin flip series, and I think either team can beat LA unless LeBron plays much, much better. And I just have no idea to predict that right now. I got to see more of these games.
Well, this is good timing to transition over to the other series, Celtics Heat. Coach, you mentioned, so obviously the Heat are up 2-1, and, they lost in overtime in game 1. It could be a very different series.
Yeah.
Boston was up big in game 3. And they were able to put that game away early in the fourth. Like late in the fourth, I mean, if Robinson made both free throws instead of one of two, now they're only down 4, I believe, at that point, like with plenty of time to move that back. So where are you on Miami's ability to, doesn't matter if they're down 18, what they just keep, they don't quit at all until it's literally 0-0 and then game's over. They keep playing. And Boston's sort of like, because they, to me, watching that game, they got nervous late and weren't doing what they were doing that got them the huge lead throughout.
So my overall strategy as a coach, and it's something we work with young coaches on all the time, is you want to try to build the biggest fucking league possible and then defend it. You want to build that margin, then defend the margin, because it gives you such a bigger margin for error.
Yeah.
Boston could afford to error late. They still have this big lead. They did have to make a couple of big shots in the fourth quarter. I think Kemba may have hit a 3. There was one other big shot they made late. But they could afford it. Even if they had missed, there's no guarantee they would have lost the game, right? There's a difference between not executing and leaking oil. So last night, for example, when they were up 9 with the ball, or maybe they just missed, I tweeted that at some point in this game, Denver's going to have a lead. Like, it was still a 9-point Lakers lead, but you could just see at some point, I could see anyway, that Denver's going to take a lead because the Lakers were dead. It was LeBron. They were running nothing. It was AD, please save us or we're toast. I did not feel that way watching the Boston-Miami game. Boston had kind of hit some mud. Miami started playing better, but they've been really bad for a lot part of that game. Miami shot very poorly, and they're the best shooting team in the bubble. They're the best shooting team left of these 4 teams for sure, and they did not shoot well. And Tyler Hero went 4 of 12. I love Tyler Hero. Kelly Olynyk, I think, went 0 of 4.
Yeah.
Other starters, they shot poorly. Duncan, I think, shot pretty well. That was it, right? Did Duncan shoot well?
He was okay in the first half, not great in the second half.
Okay, so he didn't shoot well either. So Miami's going to shoot better typically. They're a very good shooting team. I think, Jarod, all these teams are going to fight till the end. I think it's easy for us to say that. The Clippers were not a good team, by the way, responding. You're right about that. But these 4 teams, they know they're pros. They're going to keep playing. They have belief. They trust themselves. The idea is to get a big lead and fight like hell to retain it as best as you can. All these teams can come back because they'll all guard. So you can't come back if the other team keeps scoring. You can't come back if you keep scoring 3s, they keep scoring 2s, because they're only gaining 1 point. You're up 15. That's a lot of possessions over the course of the game. They're not going to make every single 3 they take. So I think this Boston-Miami series, both teams are capable of going through cold spells. Neither team is going to lead offensive team the way LA and Denver can be. I think both those teams are better. I would favor either Western team over the Eastern teams if everyone's healthy. I really like what Gary Harris has brought Denver. Will Barton still can come back. He hasn't yet. But Harris gives them another athlete, another defensive player. Denver has not shot great. Nope. I still think we can see much better from Denver. And that should scare LA because I just don't know how LeBron's going to be. In the Boston-Toronto series, Boston, I thought, attacked the zone better. Remember, you play defense to make teams do stuff they haven't practiced a lot. That's kind of what you're doing by design. And even though the skill sets required to attack a zone are well within Boston's arsenal, they haven't had to do it a lot. So they were like running an offense they weren't used to running. They were fumbling the ball and losing it, and they're more comfortable. I think they're going to get only more comfortable as the game goes on, which means Spoelstra's got to tweak up what they're doing defensively, because it's why you don't play zone the whole game. I think in game 2, Boston played 30, let's call it 37 possessions of zone. Maybe 37, 39. That's just over a third of the total possessions of the game. So they're not doing it every single time. If they do, because Boston would find the rhythm. You got to yin and yang it, right? You got to flow it a little bit. As soon as you feel like, I know for me as a coach, whatever defense we're in, if I feel like they're finding a rhythm, we're changing it. The better coaches change it before you even get to the rhythm in the first place. I try to counsel a coach like that all the time. Years ago, my son was playing we had a great team. The other team had 3 mid to high major players in their team, including Rod Strickland's son. And we had found a zone that was working. And they ran a play they had never run before. And they have a 6'7" shooter that comes off a screen and hits it against the zone. It's a very hard play to score against the zone, but they worked. And right away, I'm screaming from my bleacher spots, like, change defenses. Well, we didn't until they made 2 in a row more, and all of a sudden it's a 6-0 run, and now we're in a dogfight again. We're up like 15 at the time, and now it's a tough game. So, but it's a young coach. You start realizing, ooh, they ran some of the work there. Get out of that. Let's get out of that. Mm-hmm. So I think the NBA coaches are much better at that. I think it's more interesting to see, Jarod, what's going to happen for Denver. With LA being a one-man team right now, if LeBron is that, do we start seeing some box and ones on AD? Which is weird because he's not a guard, but we saw AD yesterday score like off the dribble. Mm-hmm. Like he's ridiculous. And by the way, that play, if he knocked down the rookie, I thought he knocked down a coach because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But that means he's knocking down a grown man. And I mean, what I mean by grown man, I don't mean my age grown man. I told the story when I'm in my gym and I'm working with players, and sometimes I get on the court, but pre-pandemic. Now I stay the fuck away when I'm coaching. If one of my players hit me, I would fall apart like Mr. Potato Head. And I'm 200 pounds. I'm not a thin guy, but I feel like I'd fall apart. But that was a professional athlete that Davis trucked like a linebacker would tackle a tackling dummy. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how huge Anthony Davis is. Oh, my goodness.
And that's coming at you off the dribble. Like, that's a lot.
The fact that he can score, come on, what do you do against that? So Vogel was thinking, Vogel's got to be prepared for what Mike Mullen might do, that they can't guard Anthony Davis from anywhere. And so we might see some tricked up zones or just regular zones by Denver because no one else on the team can really do anything. Rondo was reticent to shoot. He made 1 3 because he had no choice. He looked kind of off kilter offensively. Danny Green is capable of being really bad and old. Mm-hmm. Caruso I love. But
he had a great game yesterday. Caruso played really well yesterday.
He did, but he took that 3 that Danny Green had rebounding, getting his shot blocked. Like, if that's the guy, I'd rather J.R. Smith taking that 3 than Caruso. I think Smith maybe should play some early in game 3, get him some reps, get him to sweat a little bit so you can bring him in late in the game. He's a better shooter than Caruso is.
I agree. Real quick before we go, I do want to talk about Henry's article that came out today on TrueHoop. As you know, we love sort of talking about billionaires out here and what they do. And there is this strange connection between the NBA, right, and Judy pulled up here, the NYPD's right wing in the NBA, right? And the NYPD union has long since been sort of nonpartisan as it comes to politics. However, this go-around, they've eschewed all that, and the union president has come out in favor of Donald Trump, spoke at the RNC, went over to Bedminster to Trump's golf course and endorsed him. And there are ties here between the NBA, some of the NBA's board of governors, and the financial firms they work for, hedge funds, private equities that manage the New York PD pension funds. And it's such a strange amalgamation of things, right? Because you've got players on the one hand who are literally out here like, no, we are human beings, our lives matter, right? And they're trying to work with their billionaire bosses who are also at the same time supporting someone and putting money behind Donald Trump and racist policies. And what I think about all that, and I always bring it back to this guy, but I think it's so important, is Ibram Kendi and his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And he's very clear, right? Like, racist is not a fixed term or a fixed identifier, right? It is descriptive. It is describing what you are doing and your actions in any said moment. And because we're human beings, you can be both racist and anti-racist literally within the same conversation and moment, right? Because it's not a fixed term, it's a descriptor. If you are doing things that are supporting, right, the subjugation and inequality of one race, right, you are being racist in that moment. But if you also do things where you support policies and you support things that help races, right, you're being anti-racist. You can be both. And in this case, the owners, right, by approving all these slogans and giving them, they're doing both. And it's a very odd and strange place to be. Coach, I know you read it. Adena, let me start with you. What were your thoughts on Henry's piece?
Well, going what you said, I do agree on this, like, anti-racist, racist, but I do think there are levels to this, right? Like, putting Black Lives Matter on a court, yes, the impact, people are seeing it, but we all know money speaks a lot louder. And I'm going to say your level of racism is a lot higher than your anti-racism at that point in time if you're still giving money to these causes. Honestly, like I said, numbers are not my thing, and like following all this, it reminds me of like in the article, it's like watching Billions. I'm like, oh, so the stock's going where and who's? I just wait for like context clues, and I'm like, that guy's bad. This is bad. Chad laughs at me when I watch Billions. I was like, I don't know what shorting a stock is, but that guy's the bad guy. And that's how I feel reading this. And I'm like, everyone's hands are dirty in a sense. And you know, I talked to a lot of my friends about the strike, the postponement of the games last time, and that's why I really felt like it should have continued, because I wanted to continue to hit people in their pockets. And they're like, well, the owners can't change anything. I'm like, do you see, if you take away a portion of their money, how they will not have it to give to these entities to have it, you know, build in the stock market. I was like, that is why I said we need to stop, you know, playing basketball. How much of a percentage, because they're so rich, like in the article, we saw the pallets of money. How much of those pallets would have taken away? I don't know, maybe not that much, but that is the reason why I see, like, I'm going to stop being your labor so that you remove your money. I saw this labor poster that said, the boss needs you. You don't need a boss. And that is where I feel, you know, players need to look at it. But that's where what I got from the article.
One thing, guys, is there's two things. One is, I believe I'm right, and Henry referenced it in the article, but I did another pod this morning, and Henry's writing is so brilliant. I need to read it. Like, I always read Henry's stuff 3 times. You need to really, because the first time you're catching 20%, well, at least my intellect only catches 20%. I need to digest it more. It's like reading Victor Hugo, which I'm doing right now again. You have to really focus on what you're doing. I need no distractions, phone off kind of thing. Because he's connecting lots of dots, Adena. That's what you're talking about, really. It's not just money and the Russian names, which he often mentions, like no, it's reading Victor Hugo, let's be clear. In French, by the way. That, at least for me, it is.
But you feel smarter every time you go over it. That's the next step.
Yeah, so right. So I think it was the NYPD union head. He's the one that had the QAnon mug. Am I right to say that?
It was someone in, I don't think it was him directly. It was someone in the union that had the QAnon mug. Someone high up in NYPD.
Very high up, because otherwise, why would there be a video? I thought it was like, police chief, that kind of thing. Someone like very high up. And QAnon is basically saying there's a cabal of, in many cases, I think they mean Jewish, but definitely wealthy Democrats who are killing children and drinking their blood and all this crazy, crazy shit that they're talking about. So my point is, if you're willing to believe that, yeah, you're probably a racist too. You are not within the realm of reality that the rest of us are living. So that's one scary thing. The other thing is, and I need to read it again, like I said twice more, but I think Henry's also saying the compromise in many cases is potentially where, when your business is depending on these billions of dollars that you're managing, you are potentially compromised in terms of your ethics. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something Henry's really pointing out. I'm looking for him in watching this and then telling me where I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But he's only saying, are you really trying to call things out when they may just pull their money from you, which costs lots? It doesn't cost you billions. It costs you millions in fees when you're not managing that money. And Adena, that's a Billions reference. You can check it out. That they need that money is meaningful to them. When you take their money away, you're losing millions to your own business because you're not charging those fees anymore for that money. You're getting a percentage. So that is a major concern. And the last thing I'll say, which is strictly personal, is it's very hard to write about silly basketball stories once a week or so when your partner is Henry freaking Abbott, okay? And then, I don't want to forget this, Howard Beck's video essay, who is in the, I call him my peer. We are not peers. I'm writing about ball screens. He's doing these brilliant video essays now. It's amazing to watch this and hear a white person who really has nothing to apologize for. Let's be fair. Just because we're white doesn't mean we're guilty of anything, other than probably being a little obtuse. But we can use intelligence to get over our obtuseness, okay? And Howard does that brilliantly and gracefully, right? And with decency, something I've already shared on Facebook to all my friends. We all need to be aware of what's really happening. And I love that people like Henry and Howard are doing our part and doing their part to help all of us understand better what's happening in America today.
And great way to close, Coach. I think, look, just to sum it up again, what Henry's saying in that article is in fact true, right? Like, and it's the point that even Kenny makes all the time. You cannot be anti-racist and also pro-capitalist at the same time, right? The two things, they are diametrically opposed to one another, right? And as you see with all that money that's involved, this is why you have the, we're sort of not really down with racism, but it's about this money over here, right? You cannot have one foot in each camp. It just doesn't work.
But
right?
we have a minute. I want to just make this point. I posted this on Facebook I think on Friday. There was an article I read about the first billionaire who basically just went bankrupt. He many years ago, he just started donating enormous amounts of money. He and his wife, let's be fair, it's his wife too, enormous amounts of money to all sorts of charities. He also gave over $1 billion to Cornell, which I don't love. Those Ivy League schools have enough money. That's a whole separate Malcolm Gladwell podcast issue we can get into. But still, he was the inspiration, more or less, to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said it's amazing he's still alive and bankrupt or broke, basically, because he said it's going to take me 12 years after I'm dead to have divested all of my assets. But there are some people that are getting it. Bill Gates is committed to earning all his money, and not to say these guys are perfect, they're not. But we can be capitalistic and have decency in our hearts and in our actions, and not just talk the talk. And that should be our fair goal. We can have more socialistic programs. I'm all for it, as you know. But we also can want to be motivated by money, and not only motivated by money. That's a fair ideal to shoot for. I'm a greedy dude. I want to shoot for both. I want people to want to make a bunch of money and give a lot of it away also.
I'm getting yelled at by legal and HR. So, Adena, thank you so much for joining us. Coach Thorpe, thank you everybody for joining us on Bring It In. We'll see you Wednesday.